Make sure you check out our online store where we work with our graphic designer to create stunning garment and product designs that feature a wide variety of aircraft types such as British fighters, World War II aircraft, American bombers, Russian fighters and much more. You can pick your favourite designs and personalise any items within our Redbubble store that range from clothing right the way through to stationery. All of our designs feature our logo so you can show your support for the channel while getting a quality product. You can head to our website aircrewinterview.tv and click store, or go to redbubble.com/people/AC interview. Thank you and enjoy. You also became an instructor on the AlphaJet. Can you tell us about this and how it came about?
When you enter the Air Force, as I did after your high school degree, you're supposed to have different postings, and including being an instructor. It's part of your job. And so after 4 years in the Mirage 2000D squadron, I was sent to a tour, which is the fighter school, basically, where you learn how to fly the AlphaJet and become a fighter pilot. That's the school where you get your wings at the end. And so it was a big challenge for me because I never did this job of being an instructor. So at first you have like 3-4 months of training to learn how to teach, basically. And then afterwards you go with different students from that never flew a jet before, and you have to learn them how to teach them how to fly a jet. Basic missions at first, of course, like aerobatics, navigation, and so on. But then afterwards, you do 2 ship missions, close formation, fighting wing, different evolutions, and so on. So it's really interesting from an instructor point of view, because you need to go back to think how you were when you were in this position as a student, to try and figure out how to explain things and how to teach things so that they can understand you. Because obviously when you have 4 years of flying a Mirage 2000D, some things can seem obvious, which are not obvious for a student, you know.
Yeah.
So that was really an interesting part of my flying career. Yeah.
And was the AlphaJet a good training aircraft to, move on to, the frontline fighters?
Yeah. It is a really great jet because of its flight envelope, which is really close to a fighter jet. It's a small aircraft, 2 small engines, but quite powerful. But it's really maneuverable. It can take almost 7.5 Gs, which is not bad for a small jet. And it can do every kind of missions that you can do with a fighter jet. You can train it with the AlphaJet. You don't have the laser pod, obviously. You don't have weapons and so on, but you can simulate a lot of things. And so it was really an interesting aircraft for training. But it's quite old. It was built in the 70s, so it's old instruments, So I would say the airframe is still up to date to compare with the Rafale or the Mirage 2000, but the avionics is a bit old now. So it was a bit modernized a few years ago. So the version we have now in Cazaux in the French Air Force has a head-up display, GPS, and an INS system, but it doesn't have screens, no glass cockpit, anything. So it's a bit old now. I think now they're basically gonna replace it with a PC-21. So for the training in the French Air Force, they chose not to go with a jet anymore, but to go with a propeller with a much more modern avionics. So PC-21.
So did you instruct pilots or navs as well?
Yeah, no, pilots and navigators. In tour, we had both. We had also, when I was there, we had some Singaporean navigators that were going to fly the F-16 and the F-15. So we did the initial training for them before they went to the US, I think, to learn the WISO role. But yeah, it was nice. And we also trained Belgian pilots. We had a few Belgian students. So the training was done in English. And so it was always nice to train those different populations, because you don't train the same a Singaporean WISO than you train a French pilot, for instance. It's quite different. And also the good point of training navigators is that you get to fly in the front seat, because most of the time when you're an instructor, you fly in the back seat. Yes. So when we were flying with the navigator, we were happy to be in the front seat again. So it was nice.
So how many stages were there for the pilots and navs, and how long did it take them?
You mean in tour? Focusing on in
While
tour?
you're instructing, how long did it
Yeah.
were the stages?
Uh, I think in tour they would stay like nine months overall, I think, to get the wings. And the different what we teach was first, obviously, you need to learn how to land the jet. So basically, the first part of the training was to do landing patterns and learn how to land the jet, whatever the weather, whatever the wind, whatever the night, day, and so on. Then when you know how to do that correctly, they would go on to fly aerobatics. So basic aerobatics, navigations, instrument flight rules, and also some two ship formation flying, and a little bit of four ship formation at the end, but not much. Just I would say the basics of four ship formation flying. But yeah, two ship formation flying is quite a big part of the training because this is the basics of a fighter pilot. When you fly a fighting aircraft, you need to be able to fly as a two ship at least, because this is the minimum force you would send for an operation, for an exercise. There's always at least two aircraft. So this is the basics. Yeah.
And was the pass rate quite good for their students?
Um, yeah, yeah, I would say yes, because when you arrive at this stage, when you arrive in tour, you've already done more than 2 hours training, and it costs a lot to train a pilot. So usually, if we need to fail them, we try to do it the earlier possible so that it's better for them and it costs less for the Air Force. So it happened in tour sometimes, obviously, even in the fighter squadron, it can happen that somebody fail the training because not everybody is different. So some of us will go quickly. Some of us would need more time to accomplish the training. But usually, when you're in tour, the aim is to pass you. So we would do anything we can to help you. If we have to give more hours to somebody because he needs a bit more time, we would do so. And if it still doesn't work, at one point you may need to say, okay, maybe it's too much for him. He's reached his maximum. He cannot go further, so you have to stop him. And usually in this case, when somebody has to stop in the fighter school, that means we could propose him either to go to transport or helicopters or to become a navigator, depending on what is the problem. If it's major safety issues flying the aircraft, maybe we would ask him if he wants to be a navigator, because then he would not have to fly the aircraft anymore. He would just focus on the systems. So yeah, and if it's maybe they don't succeed in two ship flying, we could say, okay, maybe he can fly an aircraft but not fly a fighter jet, so he could go to fly transport.
Mm-hmm. So did you enjoy your role as an instructor?
Yeah, it was really interesting. It's always fun when you can give your knowledge to somebody else and you see that it helps him succeed. And it's a different responsibility. Flying a fighter jet is a big responsibility, but training somebody, teaching somebody is also a very big responsibility you have towards him. So yeah, it was really interesting. Yeah.
Brilliant. And you also became the display pilot for the Alpha
Yeah.
Jet. How did this come about?
Yeah, luck again, I would say. I was really lucky because my father used to say always aim high, and if you want something, you need to do your best to get it. Okay, don't take anything for granted. So basically, the thing is, when I arrived in tour, I was two ship leader at that time, so experienced but not very experienced, And usually they select four ship leaders, so more experienced guy to do the displays, whatever the aircraft is. So I was not supposed to do this at first. So when I arrived, I said, I'm interested. I would like to do this. So initially, the bosses, they said, no, you're not qualified enough. You cannot do that. So most of my friends, they just, when they were told this, they'd say, okay, never mind, forget it. I didn't. I said, no, I think I can do it. It's only one ship. Display is one aircraft. So I think even if I'm only a two ship leader, it's enough. I have some hours. I could do it. So I maintained my candidacy. I wanted to do it. And the luck was that I was paired with another guy who wanted to do it as well, but for a reason I don't know, apparently the bosses, they didn't want him to do it. So they considered my profile, which they didn't at first. And finally, they decided that I could do it, so I was selected. I was really surprised, but happy about it. And so that's when I started the training to become the display pilot. And it was, really a big commitment because it's not a regular way of flying the aircraft. So it was a great experience. I loved it.
So who creates the display routine?
Basically, you do it yourself. When you are selected, you start the training, and as you are doing the training and you are performing the new the way to learn an air show, flying a display at 500 feet ground and so on, you learn the maneuvers, and you try to figure out what kind of maneuver you like, what kind of maneuver fits together, and you try to set a 10 minutes display. But as you don't know much, you need your senior display pilot to help you, because in tour there were two display pilots, one in the second year that was training the one in first year. So my fellow display pilot who was in the second year, he helped me when I had an idea. He would say, maybe that's a bit too difficult, or maybe you should put it at the end, or maybe watch out for this and so and that. So he helped me, and basically as we were training together, we also did both our routine. He had his, I had mine, and that's how it works. And at the end of the training, you had to show your routine to the headquarters of the French Air Force and in front of the general, and they would validate your training. Yeah.
So what did the Alpha Jet do well in the display?
Well, the big strength we had in the display is that it's a small aircraft, so we could go on really small runways, and it's a maneuverable aircraft, so we had a quite tight display, and we could do it quite close to the public. So this is interesting. It's a standard flight control system, so we had direct control of the aircraft, and we could do some maneuvers that usually a fighter jet cannot do. For instance, we could do it's a 90 degrees turn, and during the turn you do some rolls. Okay, so it asks a lot of coordination between the stick, the rudder, and so on. It's a lot of positive, negative, positive G's. And something that you cannot do with a Mirage or F-16 or whatever. So this was something quite nice to see. And I would say the weaknesses is that it doesn't make a lot of noise. The Alpha Jet has two small engines and no reheat. So basically, you could expect some noise when you see a fighter jet display, and the Alpha Jet doesn't make a lot of noise. So that was a bit of a pity. But we tried to find some ways to make noise anyway. Maybe doing some flyby, low pass, and put some power just close to the public and so on. But it was very, very nice. And the aim was always to show the capabilities of the aircraft, of the French Air Force and the pilots, and try to let people know how to become a pilot. It's always in terms of trying to get people to come and join the Air Force. In fact, at the end.
Did you have a favorite maneuver to fly?
Yeah, I probably like most display pilots, the one I liked was the low speed pass, because it was the only time you could see what's happening on the ground. You could see the public and so on. So that was nice, because when you're flying the high G's maneuvers, you don't have much time to look out. You're just concentrating on what you do and supporting the G's, So at the end of the display, when you do the low speed pass, and especially the Alpha Jet, we could fly 90 knots, which is not fast when we had the flaps out, So 90 knots flying really slow. We could see the crowd on the ground, and that was sometimes really impressive. I remember some displays where, for instance, there was one in Spain. It was for the Red Bull air race, So there were like 500,000 people on the beach, and I was flying the pass, and I could see the whole beach of Barcelona crowded with people everywhere. It was amazing. Yeah, so that was something I liked, the slow pass.
So you must have got to fly the display all over Europe.
We did a lot of travel. We went to some countries I will probably never go back to because it was too far away. Eastern countries like been to Serbia, to Bulgaria, places like that. So yeah, it was a nice chance to travel around Europe, see different people, different countries, see different type of aircraft, flying displays as well. Went to Great Britain a few times. So yeah, it was a great time traveling around Europe. And you were really on your own, You left France with 2 aircraft, 2 pilots, and 2 technicians behind you. And you would go for a 4 day trip around Europe on your own, and you do your stuff, you do your display, your training, you change from one place to another, and then you go back to your town in a tour. And usually what we'd do is we would debrief with the squadron leader to tell him how it went, what we did, and so on. So it was a great time. Yeah.
Did you have a favourite air show you flew at?
The Barcelona one was quite great because of the crowd and the Red Bull Air Race environment. I remember one in Belgium also, Saint Nicole, I think. It was really crowded. Yeah, so always impressive when you fly in front of so many people. It's quite amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember one in Great Britain. I don't remember the name, but it was on the shore. And so the display was on the coast, and there was the Harrier doing a display as well, and it was impressive to see how it flew the display. The Harrier was very nice in the display. Yeah.
Yeah. So how long were you the display pilot for?
Well, you do that for 2 years. The first year, it's your first year, so you're training, you're learning, and it takes a lot of time to be confident in your display. And the second year, you're there to be responsible of the team and to train the new pilot. So that's what I did. Second year, I was training my new colleague and preparing the air shows around Europe and preparing the job we're going to do. So.
So how would you sum up the Alpha Jet?
A very, very nice aircraft to fly. Like it's like a small bike, You fly it, you can land it everywhere you want almost. Yeah, it's precise, it flies well, but it's really tiring because it moves all the time. Maybe because of the wings, the upper wings. So it's always unstable. That helps to be really maneuverable, but it also makes you always never steady, so it's a bit tiring. So when you're an instructor in it, the 1 hour mission behind a student can be really tiring. At the end of the day, you're exhausted. But it's really great to fly as a fighter jet. You can really learn the job easily. So it's a great aircraft. The only thing is, unfortunately, it doesn't have the avionics that we need now. So and it's an old aircraft, so it's going to end his career now. But I had a lot of fun with this aircraft. Yeah, really.
Well, you certainly have had an amazing career, and I'm not jealous at all. But but we got some personal questions, Matthew, if you're happy to answer these. So, do you have any hobbies?
I've rediscovered a hobby that I had when I was a kid. I'm building aircraft model kits again. Plastic kits,
Yeah.
I think it's a bit because it helps me to keep a foot in the fighter jet environment, because now I'm not flying fighter jets anymore. I'm building them, and I like it. It calms me. It's a nice hobby, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I started trying to build them, and within 10 minutes, I wanted to throw the thing out the window. I gave in very
needs
quickly.
a bit of patience. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, do you have a favorite aircraft you've flown?
Well, I have a nice career, but I stayed in French aircraft types, So my favorite aircraft to fly was the Mirage 2000. That was great. Yeah, that's the one I loved flying. If you ask me which one I would like to fly, I must say I flew the Rafale once or twice from the back seat, and it was really nice to see, really powerful, But the one I would really love to fly is the Su-35.
Oh, wow.
Because of the maneuverability it has. I find it really amazing to do those kind of things with fighter jets. So yeah, I would like to see how it's done, from the cockpit.
It is amazing, isn't it, when you see the displays?
Yeah.
But is there an aircraft from the past that's not flying anymore that you would love to fly?
From the past, yeah, I always loved the World War II stories about the pilots during Battle of Britain and so on. So yeah, maybe the Spitfire, just to see how it feels. But I'm more of a jet pilot type of guy, jet aircraft. So yeah, let's say if I have to go for an old jet, the F-14.
I was going to say,
F-14, yeah.
Good choice.
I love
the
F-14. Yeah, F-14 is a mighty aircraft. Yeah, probably it's the aircraft that gave the love of flying to a lot of pilots because of Top Gun, obviously, And yeah, I still find it so beautiful. Yeah,
it's a good-looking jet. Yeah.
Yeah, good-looking jet. Yeah.
So, how many hours did you get in your career?
A bit more than 3,000, but I was lucky because I flew propellers at the beginning of my training, and then once I had when I reached the Alpha Jet to become a fighter pilot, then I never flew propellers again. I was only flying jets, so I have more than 3,000 hours flying only jets. So yeah, that's really nice because I was much more interested in jets, so I was lucky. And I have like 1,700 hours on the Mirage and 1,400 on the Alpha Jet, something like that.
Not bad at all. Wow. But Matthieu, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a privilege to talk to you.
Well, it was very nice to have me on your show. Thank you very much. And you do an awesome job.
Cheers.